let's bring in our friend from ESPN, fresh off of his first big mock draft. They had a whole show about it on the worldwide leader in sports. Our friend Todd McShay back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Todd?
Doing well, Rich. How you doing, man?
I am doing fine. I'm looking at these cap numbers, right, that teams are trying to build around their quarterbacks right now. And I'm wondering, would I rather be in a boat with, say, Lamar Jackson taking up only 1.6% of my cap, Josh Allen 3.6% of my cap, or would I rather be in the boat, like, say, with Dak 10%, Jimmy G 13.5%, Mahomes 13%, Aaron Rodgers 20%? I'm wondering if this is the stuff that you're talking about with evaluators also as they're looking at all 22.
Yeah, it's part of it. It really is. And what you have to decide is, are you getting something equal to or better than what you currently have at that position? And that's really the struggle. And where you are drafting, are you capable of getting a player that you think could be as good as the quarterback that you have? And that's the struggle right now. We know that Jacksonville's going to take Trevor Lawrence with that first pick. And then after that, it's all up in the air. What do the Jets do with Sam Darnold? Are they going to move him in part because of these reasons, and maybe in part because they love Zach Wilson, if that's the case? That's the organizational struggle that's going on with a lot of these teams, especially the ones that are picking high, in this year's draft.
So then let's break it down then. Let's get into that Jets decision. What do you think their decision is, on Darnold and or Zach Wilson, or using a lot of their draft capital that they have earned by trading away players like, say, the Prez, Jamal Adams, to go maybe make a blockbuster deal for Deshaun Watson or even Russ? What do you think is going on in Joe Douglas's mind right now?
Yeah, my guess is, knowing Joe and knowing kind of how he was raised in the business with Ozzie Newsome and just piling picks and building an organization from the draft, that's the route he's going to go. Now, he and everyone else who's quarterback needy, Carolina, Atlanta, etc., they're kind of waiting to see where some of these quarterbacks go in terms of the veterans, and we'll see with free agency as some of the guys get sorted out and the trades. But ultimately, if you think Zach Wilson is going to be anywhere close to as good as Sam Darnold, then I think the move is to try to move Sam Darnold and get some more draft capital for him and build the whole organization in a 2-year span. I mean, the Jets have 2 first-rounders this year, 2 first-rounders next year. I want to say 8 picks in the first 3 rounds combined. So they've got a lot to work with. And then if you are able to move Sam for whatever the compensation is, let's say it's a pair of 2s or a 1 and a 4, whatever it is, then you have that in addition to what you already have. So you bring in Zach from BYU, and you're going to struggle for a year or 2, but then you have the organization that you're looking to build 2 years down the road.
What's your evaluation of Zach Wilson compared to Sam Darnold when he was coming out of USC? Because we talked to Coach Satani of BYU, and the way he talked about Zach Wilson being a gamer, being all about ball. He doesn't play video games. He watches film of the NFL. It sounded exactly like what I heard about Darnold coming out of USC, quite frankly.
Yeah, they're actually really similar. And I get asked this question a lot, obviously, because the decision that the Jets are going to have to make. And the similarities are, yes, the maturity and loving ball. But I also think kind of the magic inside the pocket, the ability to extend plays, change arm angles, and sense where the rushers are coming from. Now, you look at Sam in the NFL and you say, well, your evaluation was off. But you also have to look at the supporting cast. I mean, he's never had a good offensive line. At best, he's had an average offensive line. He's never had – I mean, who's his best wide receiver that he's had during his career? Who's the best running back that he's had? And there's been no sustaining of those players that have come in and out. So I still think Sam Darnold can be a really, really high-end starter in the league, but it might be time for a scene change, if you will, to go somewhere else and to kind of start over. And if not, then the Jets have to sit there at number 2 and probably trade back for a team that's trying to move up, like a Carolina, as I mentioned, from 8-2, or Atlanta from 4-2, to go get Zach Wilson and take advantage of that as well. So they have options, but, I mean, make no mistake, Joe Douglas this year and next year in the draft will define kind of his legacy and what the Jets organization will be for the next 10 years.
Todd McShay here on the Rich Eisen Show. Look, Todd, I mean, everyone knows I'm a Jet fan, but I am talking about it significantly because they are the major domino of the draft.
Absolutely.
And potentially free agency with some of their decision making. And so let's wave a wand and say that the best spot for Sam Darnold would be what? And let's include the fact that Mike LaFleur is bringing in the Shanahan system, or is it best for him to go to the actual Shanahan system? Wave a wand and say the best spot for Sam Darnold would be this place because he deserves to have this happen for him after everything that you just chronicled. Go for it.
I think Carolina would be really interesting. And I just look at them last year, and they're a better team than people think. They had 8 games that they lost by 1 score. And they need a dude at that position, a guy who can finish off drives in the fourth quarter. So to me, they're sitting back at number 8 in the draft this year, and they can't control what they can do necessarily, because we could see Trevor Lawrence go 1, Zach Wilson go 2, Justin Fields, Trey Lance all go in the top 4 picks. And who knows what's going to happen with Mac Jones. And I know they like Mac Jones a whole lot from the Senior Bowl, but I would rather have Sam Darnold, even though I'm going to have to pay him a lot more moving forward than Mac Jones. But Darnold, to me, just would add that value and may take them from a team that's picking 8 overall to a team that's making a run in the playoffs.
Now, normally, Todd McShay, we'd be coming back from the combine right about now.
I know, right?
After seeing a bunch of kids spin it, and then maybe a couple of kids not because their agent said don't, and I'd be pissed because I'm sitting in the booth trying to make some chicken salad out of that moment. But so evaluate these guys right now. Obviously, there's no combine. We've seen a pro day out of Trevor Lawrence. Give me your quarterback evaluations as we sit here prior to the new league year starting.
Well, Trevor Lawrence, to me, I have the highest grade on him that I've had on a quarterback since going back to 2012 with Andrew Luck, and we all know his ability. The only question I have, because I don't know, is how does he process information and all sorts of those things, and it's been tough for teams this year without the one-on-one contact to really dive into all that. But his maturity, his leadership, and the way his demeanor on the sideline. I've done 9 games live with him the last 3 years, and just watching him after incomplete passes that were drops and interceptions and touchdowns and all the other things, he never wavers. Zach Wilson is different, and it's a different evaluation because 2 years ago he had a shoulder injury and he had a hand injury, but this past year he comes out and plays in a strange season against not great competition, but was exceptional and showed a lot of Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield kind of qualities in terms of the ability to extend plays and just make plays and have those instincts. So I think Zach Wilson is clearly the number 2 quarterback in this class, and I'll be shocked if he's not the number 2 pick. Then after that, it gets interesting because Justin Fields from Ohio State is so physically gifted, and he has good football intelligence, but he played in a system where everything was kind of tailored for him. It was quarterback friendly, and he likes to see his receiver come open. And as you know, in the league, you've got to be able to anticipate throws and kind of trust where your receivers are going to be. And that's one area that he has to develop. And then Trey Lance had one game, in the strangest game I've ever seen in college football, a showcase game against Central Arkansas. He has just 17 starts coming out of North Dakota State, and he played at the small school level. So you're talking about 4 quarterbacks that could all go in the top 4, but they're very different prospects because of all those reasons. And then Mac Jones bursts on the scene this year after just 4 starts the prior year when Tua Tagovailoa got injured at Alabama and got better and better and better. But he's not as mobile as Trevor or Zach or Fields or Lance. So he's got to play great with his mind, and he's got to be extremely smart and understand what defenses are doing. And he showed that. Steve Sarkisian said, I gave him towards the end of the season more install packages than I have ever with any quarterback that I've worked with at the college level. So they're 5 unique guys. They're all supremely talented, but they're all very different, too. And that's what makes the evaluation so unique, because you talk to guys in the league, and one team loves Trevor. Another team says, well, Zach might be the best quarterback. It just depends on who you talk to.
So then who are you talking to that you can that all right, instead of that, hold on, let me rephrase that. Which teams do you think are in the first round quarterback market? Who do you think is true? Like, who are you hearing?
Well, Jacksonville clearly.
No, obviously, yes. I mean, outside of Jets, Jacksonville, Carolina.
I think Carolina is starving for a quarterback, and because of the reasons that I stated earlier.
Right.
So it won't shock me at all if they make a move up, assuming they don't get a quarterback in free agency or trade. Atlanta's the most interesting team because Matt Ryan, the cap hit that you're going to take over the next couple of years, I think Matt Ryan still has a lot of good football left in him. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Matt Ryan was still Atlanta's starter in 2 years. I'm not talking just next year, 2 years. But do you want to bring in a quarterback now and develop him, especially a guy like a Trey Lance from a small school with just 17 starts so that you're set for your future? So those are the 4 teams to me that really jump out. And then, you look at Chicago after that down the line. New England, what's New England going to do with their quarterback situation? So there are several teams. Denver's another one as well. And San Francisco, I didn't mention, who I had trading up in this recent mock draft in number 9 to go get Mac Jones. So there are 5 quarterbacks that should go in the first round, and there are about 7 teams right now that have quarterback needs. Now, how that shifts with free agency and trades is what we're all kind of waiting to see.
Yeah, I want to dwell on the New England for a second, certainly because if you say San Francisco is going to be going for Mac Jones, that means Jimmy G might be available, and that might be a fit too. Certainly because, here are the names of the quarterbacks that Bill Belichick has drafted, okay? Tom Brady, obviously, Rohan Davey, Cliff Kingsbury, Matt Castle, Kevin O'Connell, Zach Robinson, Ryan Mallett, Jimmy G, Jacoby Brissett, Danny Etling, and Jarrett Stidham. First rounders, none of them are first rounders. So
that's what I've been saying, and I told our graphics people to build that exact graphic because I don't think, and you know what? Every time I think something about New England, they wind up doing the opposite. So take it for what it's worth.
Yes,
but I just get the sense that Bill will wait. And he'll try to see what's going on with the free agents and the movement and see what happens. But I don't envision him giving away multiple draft picks to go up into the top 7, 8 spots to go get a quarterback, especially when, just to make this clear, it's Trevor, and then there's a gap. And then it's Zach Wilson, and then there's a gap. And then those other 3 quarterbacks you can kind of debate, in my opinion. And so I don't know that you're trying to move up. What does it cost to move up from 15 to 2 to go get one of the two top quarterbacks? And otherwise, is it worth giving up all those draft picks in order to get one of the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best quarterback in this class? I don't personally think so, and I just don't envision Bill Belichick doing that.
Last couple minutes here with Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst, college football analyst, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. The concept of Herbert's much better than Tua because of what we just saw from their rookie years. How do you handle that process of evaluation?
I think you have to give Tua time. Obviously Herbert outplayed him, but Tua practiced well enough and showed enough to the coaching staff to get an opportunity to play. And we all kind of such short-term memory. I mean, this guy, I was standing 10 yards from him when he suffered that hip injury. And he had to bounce back from that. We didn't. Most people thought, including myself, that he would just redshirt this past year, take the year off, and continue to get right physically. So he's come a long way from what we saw with that injury to where he was last year. Now he obviously has to play better, and you hear some things coming out of Miami. I don't know, what's true and what's not true at this point, but I certainly wouldn't give up on a quarterback after the first year. I mean, we've seen so many times with guys that have had really brutal rookie seasons that have gone on to be Hall of Famers. So you got to give these quarterbacks a little bit of time. And to your point, when we opened the segment, you know, teams are now so much more willing to move quarterbacks after 2-3 years and just move on from them. Josh Rosen's a great example, and that worked out really well so far for Arizona, but I still think you got to develop these guys, and you got to give them time, and especially in Tua Tagovailoa's situation coming off that hip injury, you got to give them a minute.
Well, I mean, you know, the Cardinals moved on from Rosen because they had the first overall selection in Kyler Murray and could start the clock again with somebody with a greater physical skill set, you would say, than obviously Josh Rosen. And the Jets, if they move on from Darnold, they would move on for somebody that they would start the clock with all over again. Would you move Tua for Deshaun Watson if you're Miami? Because you know that Deshaun would probably not mind going to Miami. South Florida is apparently on his hit list, and they do have the number. I mean, Miami, for starters, could just flip Tua and also Houston's first-round draft pick back. Would you do that if you're Miami? Would you do that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
No question.
Well, I mean, obviously there'd be more. It would probably be a lot more expensive than just what I just mentioned.
It would be the 8th pick. What Miami's at 18, I think, is their second pick, and probably at least another first round or maybe 2 more first round picks.
You do that?
But yeah, I would do it. I would do it for Deshaun. I would. And I just told you all the reasons that I think you should be patient with Tua, but Deshaun has proven. You know what you're getting. He's still young. He wants to go somewhere where the situation is better and there's more consistency. And Miami, believe it or not, and I know they're picking at 8, and I know, they've had so many problems for so many years, but this is the best organization that Miami's had in terms of the coaching staff and their front office since I've been doing this, actually. So, about 20 years.
So then, last one for you. What if you're the Bears, who would probably have to take out a second and third mortgage on their houses, plus Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith? Would you do that for Deshaun? Would you do that?
I would. I would love to just give away draft picks and not give away those 2 standouts on the defensive side. But, yeah, you're going to have to give up a lot, especially picking it at 22. I mean, and everyone knows that they're quarterback hungry and that they want to get up in the top 10 if they can't get a veteran quarterback. So you have them right where you want them. So you're probably going to get a better deal out of Chicago in terms of the long term, if that's how it all works out. But, yeah, I would. In either situation, I would. If I was Miami or Chicago, if I had a chance to get Deshaun and it wasn't completely unreasonable, it's going to be unreasonable, but as long as it's not beyond that, I would make the move.
Todd, appreciate the time. Thank you. Let's do this again soon. Really, always enjoy our chats. At McShay13 on Twitter, at T McShay on Instagram. Follow Todd McShay. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.